Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are so excited for the launch of Dory's book. Thanks for waiting. Um, Before we get started, I'm just going to go over a few things with you guys. So, we are so excited to present this event with Random House's new wellness brand, Well Enough. We know that wellness means something different to everyone, wherever you are in your wellness journey, and we have experts in every area, from health and wellness to fitness and mindfulness to spirituality and finance. We love sharing curated content for what matters to you. There's never been a better time to start or deepen your wellness practice, and we are here to help. Follow at Well Enough on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and sign up for our newsletter. We'd also like to thank our partner, Tatcha. Tatcha has provided everyone with 15% off promotional code. You should have received this code in an email we sent out via Eventbrite. If for whatever reason you haven't received this email, please let us know at pr@randomhouse.com. Random House has also enabled auto-generated closed captions for this evening's event. To access the closed captions, please click the live transcript button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Please bear with us as these captions are auto-generated, so they might not be 100% perfect, so we will do our best. And then please feel free to connect with other readers and guests in the chat. We would love to hear your thoughts and hear about what you've been reading. We just ask that you please stay respectful. And now I am happy to introduce our MC for this evening, Dory's wonderful editor, Sarah Wise.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Kate. And hello, everybody. Welcome to night 2 of Worth the Wait. Thanks for waiting launch event with the wonderful Dory Shafrir and an all-star lineup of guests. As Kate mentioned, I'm Sarah Weiss. I'm Dory's editor, and I'm so excited that the launch for this book is finally here. In Thanks for Waiting, which Refinery 29 called Frank, Funny, and Bound to Make You Laugh, Dory's given us a moving, vulnerable, and fully nuanced exploration of the way women's lives have been constrained by arbitrary deadlines, and how learning to live at your own pace can be unexpectedly freeing. We're thrilled that we've been able to put together this incredible 2-night event, and thank you for everyone who joined us last night to celebrate the book's launch. We have an all-star lineup of amazing women who will be joining Dory in conversation about many of the topics she writes about in the book, everything from dating to work to infertility. And on top of that, we have some special guests who will be stopping by to give us expert tips as well on everything from fashion to finances. You should have received an event program with your registration email that details the lineup for each night, but we'll drop a link for it in the chat here as well. This also links to some important things like the very important Tatcha discount code that Kate mentioned and the recipe for tonight's delicious signature cocktails. Just one last thing before we get started, and that's a big thank you to our book-selling partner, Book Soup in Los Angeles, for fulfilling all the book orders for tonight's event. Just a quick reminder that all of the bundled tickets for tonight's event include a signed and personalized copy of Thanks for Waiting, and that is the only way to get a signed copy of the book. So if you're having regrets that you didn't buy a fully bundled ticket, there's still a chance for you to order a signed and personalized book from Book Soup, and we'll drop the link in the chat below. Dory's going to be signing books later this week, and all books will be shipped out from the store directly. Okay, enough from me. So let's kick off the fun with our first session this evening. I am thrilled to welcome the woman of the hour, Dory Shafrir, alongside Maureen Gu. And I am going to read their bios as they come up on stage. So Dory Shafrir, as you all know, is the author of the novel Startup, as well as the memoir that comes out today. Thanks for waiting. She is the co-host of the podcast Forever 35 and Matt and Dory's Excellent Adventure. She lives in LA with her family. Maureen Gu is the author of several acclaimed books for young adults, including I Believe in a Thing Called Love and Somewhere Only We Know. She also writes for Marvel's Silk series. She lives in LA with her husband, son, and cats. All right, so without further ado, Dory and Maureen, please take it away.
Hi.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, Maureen.
Thank you. Hi, Dory. How are you?
Hi. I'm hanging in there. How are you?
I'm good. I know release day is like a lot of feelings at the same time, and so it can be overwhelming.
Yes.
So I'm glad that you and I are going to talk about self-care. It's like a moment of calm during this tornado of events and media and stuff. But I have your book right here. Thanks for waiting. I loved it so much. What people don't know is that I got an early copy of this because I just was greedy and I wanted it. and Dory sent me an ebook. And there was one night where I couldn't sleep, and I literally stayed up the entire night reading the book. I woke up, I was like awake at 6 a.m. and I had finished the book. So it was so great. I loved it on so many levels.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I wore lipstick because I was like, I must wear a lip for the host of Forever 35. Because I feel like a lot of the people at this event, and probably people who are going to buy the book, are Forever 35 listeners. I would be shocked if most of them weren't. And that's how I met you. I think I knew Kate via like author Twitter or something. And then asked me to be a guest on your show because I think I was very thirsty about it. On Twitter or something, I'm like, I love Forever 35. And then when Kate was like, do you want to be on? I was like, oh, sure. So that's how we met when the first time I was on Forever 35. And I feel like we have to talk about Forever 35 if we're going to talk about self-care, but also, you know, your book kind of spans your whole young adult life till now, ish.
Yeah.
Self-care, obviously, I think it's something that it's having a moment, right? You guys were, I would say, like the leading that moment. And then I also think it's something that we talk a lot about, you know, as we get older, like our age right now, like Forever 35, right? And up. What was your relationship with self-care like when you were younger? And do you even think because I think about when I was younger and I don't even know if I had any concept of what self-care really was.
I definitely did not have a great concept of what self-care was. Certainly not in my 20s and for my early 30s too. I mean, I think I kind of nominally had a concept of it, like, oh, a manicure, like that's self-care. But I didn't really think about it holistically. Like at the same time that I was doing certain things that might fall into the category of self-care, I was also like staying out way too late drinking and getting involved with people I shouldn't have been involved with. And, you know, just like doing these things that certainly do not fall under the rubric of self-care, might even fall under the rubric of like self-sabotage. And it definitely wasn't something that I mindfully practiced,
right?
Like at all. So yeah, so I definitely think that has evolved.
Yeah, I kind of associate self-care with like, but it's interesting because I think you guys do have a lot of young listeners, and maybe it's rather than like age dependent, it's more kind of the times, because you talk about in your book when the podcast, I was like, okay, I loved your whole journey, everything, especially the juicy dating stuff. But then I was also just like on the edge of my seat, like, when are they going to start talking about Forever 35? You know? So I was like, yes, Dory's mentioning it now. And I feel like you talk about when this podcast idea came into your life, which was after the election when you were a journalist and when you were going through IVF. Which is kind of like interspersed, I think, with this part of your book. Can you tell us a little bit about why you were drawn to the idea of self-care during this time? And was it kind of a new concept for you then when you thought of the podcast?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So it was Kate who had initially texted to say, excuse me, to ask if I wanted to start a podcast about skincare. And that was kind of the initial impulse of the show. Like we had taken a sort of refuge in skincare in the aftermath of the election in 2016, and just, you know, everything that had happened in the beginning of 2017 and then through the summer. And then I think speaking for myself, I think I was looking for something that I could like have some semblance of control over, and kind of retreating into skincare rituals in particular was really appealing to me. And so I think that skincare became part of the conversation in a way that it hadn't necessarily before. And then for us on the podcast, that very quickly and organically kind of evolved into a broader discussion about self-care, because I think partly because we were using skincare as self-care. So, it was all kind of part of one umbrella. And, I do think you're right. Like, I think that the conversation around self-care is just so different now than it was when we were in our 20s. And so I do wonder if it is less of an age thing and more of a just like a zeitgeist thing, where it's just something that people are more aware of now and more mindful of. Because you're right, like we have listeners in their teens who find that what we talk about really speaks to them. So yeah, I mean, I think that as the world has gotten more overwhelming and scary in a lot of ways, like this is something that I think a lot of people have individually started to practice in a way that feels right for them.
Yeah, I feel like the concept of self-care has even changed from when you guys started the podcast to now. Maybe, I think in the world a little bit, but also with you two. The way you guys talk about self-care, and then, every week, a few times a week, actually, you guys talk about your intentions, and so we're always like kind of in the loop with what you guys view as taking care of yourselves. And it was such a trip to listen to it during the pandemic too, personally, it was such a lifeline. Okay, you guys were a lifeline for a lot of reasons. One, when the show first came out, it was after the election, so all of us were just like shell shocked and trying to deal. I was living in China, and I was like,
Right.
I needed something to hold on to, and it was so soothing.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic came and I was pregnant. And so you guys started doing a daily, was it daily? Gosh, now that I think, I'm like, that is wild. Every weekday podcast called
When the pandemic started, we did a daily podcast for about 2 months because we were like, we'll do this just for lockdown, thinking lockdown was going to last 2 to 4 weeks, and then it was endless. And then we were like, okay, we can't keep doing this. So
I was so, you know what, that podcast to me and the way you guys handled even ending it was such I feel like a lesson in self-care because it was every day, which was amazing. And I think, you guys were also processing your feelings and
for sure,
all going through, but you were definitely providing a service for everyone. And then it was a lot. And so when you said, I think we're going to not do this anymore, but we'll add another mini ep to our regular to Forever 35, I remember just being really impressed with how you did that, because it was like, yes, please take it. I can't imagine like any listener of your podcast being like, what? Like, we wanted you to keep it going. All of us are like, please.
That has been something. Yeah, and that has been something that's been like kind of instructive is, sometimes we do hear from listeners who are like, you sound really stressed. And, I think it's been, for me, important to recognize my own boundaries and limitations, like especially when it comes to work and like productivity, quote unquote, which is a conversation we've been having a lot lately on the podcast. But yeah, kind of being able to acknowledge like, you know what, I'm at my limit. And like, I can't take anything else on, or like for my own mental health, I need to stop doing this thing, or I can't do this thing because of my own mental health. Like that was like not in my vocabulary, I think, for a really long time, for many reasons. I think one reason was, I wanted to like come across as someone who could like take on everything and manage everything. And I was worried what people would think of me if I couldn't do that. But like, this was all kind of in my own head. And then what would happen is I would just get like totally overwhelmed and like miss deadlines and just not be able to handle everything that I had taken on for myself. So, I think for me, that has been a really important part of kind of navigating my own self-care.
Yeah, I mean, I really relate to that when you guys talk about that with time management, and it's just a evolving thing. And I mean, that's why I love the show. I feel like you guys are so relatable, but also talk about all the things that, we bring to our therapists, but also with our girlfriends.
Yeah.
And do you feel like Forever 35 is self-care for you, or has it moved entirely into kind of work category now?
It's both. It's a really vital part of my self-care, like getting to have those conversations with Kate and kind of, we basically like check in with each other, not just on the air, but in real life. Like, we are very close friends. And so, the fact that that podcast has kind of enabled that friendship to evolve and grow has been really, really rewarding and gratifying. And at the same time, like, the podcast is both of our kind of like main jobs, in addition to our other main jobs, which is like writing books. Yeah. So, but it is a job, and there are things that we have to do for the show that are kind of like a drag, not because, they're bad things, but it's just like these like logistical kind of like businessy things that, anyone would have to do. Yeah. And, those are the things where, you are kind of reminded like, oh yeah, this is actually a job. But like, as jobs go, it's a pretty great job. And something else that we've both, I think, become better at is like acknowledging the things that are not our strengths and having other people like take those off our plates, and like, saying, I think we should spend some money on hiring a project manager. I think we should spend some money on doing XYZ, and like kind of acknowledging that these are things that like take us away from the day-to-day of what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's so important. And you don't often think of that sort of thing as self-care, but I feel like a lot of what self-care, to tie this all back into your book, is about it's like learning about yourself, and a lot of that takes time.
Yes.
And so that's why I think about youth versus self-care. You're still trying to figure yourself out. And so I wrote this out because I'm a nerd and I'm a writer. I wrote, I feel like Forever 35 is thematically on point with being a late bloomer because of how the audience is mostly women who are no longer 20, or there are some, but the title Forever 35, and the target audience for fashion and teen magazines, but we don't know everything or have our lives perfectly in order, even though when you're young, you think by the time you're X age, I'll like know everything. So we're still looking for inspiration, for tips, for guidance, and for that great friend with all the good makeup tips. So how does the podcast help you navigate this time in your life? And I guess in the way the podcast / self-care, I'm like kind of making them a little bit like one and the same here, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's been really amazing for me, and something that I wasn't necessarily expecting, was the amount that I've like learned from our listeners and learned from our community and learned from like being in the Forever 35 Facebook groups, and just kind of getting exposure to that range of experiences and people who are a range of ages and gender identities and jobs and locations, and just like being exposed to that range of experience, I think, has been really great for me. And in a way,
Oh, sorry, Dory got cut out a little bit there.
1 second. Sorry, my headphones just died, so I'm
Professional
trying to figure
podcasting.
out what to do here. 1 moment, please.
I can hear you really well, though.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay.
So that's the only. Oh wait, no, I know why. Hold on. I know why. Sorry, everyone. All right, here we go.
I agree with you. You guys have like such an amazing audience. All your voicemails and emails that you read out really crack me up, and I feel like it's such a wide range of like a wide array of people and from around the world too. I really loved during the pandemic when you had people calling in from all parts of the world, like how they're all dealing with their various lockdowns, and but also like the more lighthearted when you guys talk about like butt care and you know. There's always somebody out there that's like has something to say. And
I know, it's true. And I think that's another thing. And, you know, I know we have to wrap it up, but, you know, just acknowledging like the breadth of our human experience and the breadth of our approaches to self-care, like that has been really eye-opening and important for me. So I'm really grateful to this community for it. And
do you have time to answer the obvious question of what's your current self-care rituals at the moment?
Sure, I will do that. Yeah. So, you know, I've talked about this a little bit on the pod, but playing piano has become like a really important self-care ritual for me. I find it extremely calming, and I usually practice at night after my son goes to bed, and it's like something I look forward to all day. It's like just something that I just do for me, and I really enjoy it, and it's really fun to like see myself getting better. And I don't know, that has been a really surprising new form of self-care that if you had asked me, you know, a year ago, if I would have like started taking piano lessons again and been practicing every day.
I love that.
So yeah, so that is a really big one for me right now.
Oh, yeah. You know, when you talked about that, I was like, that is something I have always wanted to do, go back to piano lessons. Because I took them in 5th grade and not for very long. And my husband's really great at piano and he's always like, I'll teach you. But I'm like, no, I want to like a teacher. But yeah, I love that. And I felt like that was also something that kind of came up during the pandemic too. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed like the timing on the
yes, it totally did. It totally did. So,
and you know, of course the pandemic was hard, and especially for a lot of other people. But I do think it's kind of, it gave a lot of people this gift of like time and like reconnecting and with themselves and going, and self-care just took on a whole new meaning. I feel like while we were all under this like very unprecedented time, like all the emails said during that time, but it's true, it was unprecedented. So I love when I hear you guys and you talk about all the new things that you're doing, and I feel like I learned from the show so much, because I too thought self-care was like a bubble bath or you know, a mindfulness exercise, which those are, but like the show has made me like, yeah, journaling or like making a to-do list is self-care. Flossing, you know, is it Kate that's on a flossing journey? I too need, like, I do not floss.
Yeah. Kate has been on a flossing journey. Yes.
I relate to that. I only started flossing when I was pregnant because I felt like I was supposed to. And then it became like kind of a habit I'm keeping up with. And okay, let me see. I actually had a couple other questions if we had time, but are we gonna maybe?
I think we do need to wrap.
Okay.
But we can continue this conversation.
I mean, we can always talk. I was like, I'm the one that gets to talk about self-care with Dory. Ooh.
Yes, you are the one.
Yeah, I felt very honored.
Maureen, this was so fun. Thank you for
doing this and for making me think about these great questions. And
Oh,
I'm
thank
so
you.
thrilled that, yeah, I'm so thrilled.
I am too. I loved your book. Obviously, I love Forever 35. I hope everybody who listens picks up the book because it is Forever 35 plus a bunch of cool stories from Dory from her youth and beyond. It's really great. So thanks for having me and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. That was such a great conversation. And thank you so much, Maureen, for joining us tonight. And for those of you who have fully bundled tickets, you'll also be able to catch Maureen at our after party. Okay, so now we are moving on to our first interstitial tonight with the wonderful Rachel Wilkerson Miller, who's here to teach us about the art of creating a wardrobe that works for you. Rachel Wilkerson Miller is the author of The Art of Showing Up, How to Be There for Yourself and Your People, and also Dot Journaling, a Practical Guide. She's also the deputy editor of Vice Life. Previously, she was a senior lifestyle editor at BuzzFeed for 4 years. Along with Vice and BuzzFeed, her writing has appeared in the New York Times, Huffington Post, and Self, and she's been a guest on NPR, The Today Show, and Good Morning America. She lives in Brooklyn, and here is Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel Wilkerson Miller. I wrote the book, The Art of Showing Up, How to Be There for Yourself and Your People. And I also wrote a book called Dot Journaling, a Practical Guide a few years before that. So Dory invited me to talk about something I wrote years ago, actually, when I worked at BuzzFeed about wearing a dress code or sort of creating a dress code for myself. So I actually was really excited to read the chapter in her book about getting dressed because I felt like it's a perfect segue into this topic because she talks about like how difficult it was to kind of find herself and figure out what her style should be and how it changed over the years, which is something that I can totally relate to. So to start, like I wanted to kind of explain how I came into what I refer to as my dress code. So it kind of happened out of necessity. I reached a point in my life where I was like, I think I need to stop buying so many clothes and stop spending so much money at Express or Forever 21 on cheap things that I wear once or twice and then never again. And I'm getting into debt over like that has to stop. So basically I was like, if I'm going to buy something, I want it to be something that I really like because I'm going to have to wear it a lot. And so that helped me rethink how I was shopping. Like suddenly I needed to think, okay, do I like this enough to wear it a bunch? That was kind of how it started. And over time, I was like, wow, it's really nice to just wear things that you like and you feel really good in. So when I moved to New York, after 4 years in Texas, I got this job at BuzzFeed and moved to New York and had to start buying clothes that were basically worked for a winter climate. So I was buying a lot of stuff and was like, I would buy things and I was like, wow, I really like this gray sweater. Maybe I'll just buy another one because I want to wear this all the time. And you know, I didn't like go full on uniform where all I wear is this gray sweater, but I was like, hey, it's fine to have 2 of these gray sweaters. And I was wearing white jeans a lot, which is just something that like I really like wearing. I feel comfortable in, I feel confident in. I think in New York, it kind of makes me stand out because people wear black all the time, but it just works with my style and it's something I feel really at home in. And so I started to build all of my clothes around, or all of my outfits around white jeans. So it was like gray sweater, white jeans, pastel, like a pink sweater, white jeans, like the same shoes. I have 1 or 2 pairs of shoes and that's what I wear. So over time, I like kind of refined this into what I think of as my dress code. So basically the idea is like a uniform to me is wearing like the same thing over and over again. And a capsule wardrobe is like I have 10 or 12 pieces and I mix and match them and I come up with creative new outfits. And my thing is like, I don't want to come up with creative new outlets. Like this is not how I express my creativity. Some people do, that's totally fine. I am not one of those people. I actually prefer my clothes to kind of allow me to be on autopilot so I don't have to think about them, which, you know, again, people have been doing this for years. Mark Zuckerberg has a uniform. President Obama has talked about this. Men wearing suits, like they understand the idea of like, isn't it great to just have this one thing that you wear all the time and you don't have to overthink it? So like, this is not a particularly creative or new concept, but for me, thinking about it as a dress code and kind of giving myself rules made shopping, getting dressed, doing laundry, everything so much easier. So I think the thing with the rules is like, you know, rules can feel really oppressive when somebody else is setting them, but when you are the one doing it, it suddenly can feel kind of like it allows a certain level of freedom because when I'm shopping, I can go into a store and say, okay, everything in here is neon. I'm not going to buy any of this and walk out. Like I'm looking for specific silhouettes because I know what I think looks good on me. I know what I feel good in. if you don't have that, like I'm out of here. If I'm looking at a site that has tons of clothes, like an ASOS, I can filter by color or by shape or whatever. And I'm like, again, it just narrows things down so much. So that's super easy. It also is really helpful when I'm doing laundry. If all of my clothes are light and like sort of similar style and weight, I can wash them so much easier, which in living in a city, like having less laundry is a huge benefit. So that's kind of the gist of why I like it so much. But also I think it ultimately just comes down to like, I feel good in these clothes. And if I only buy things that I know that I feel good in, whether that's the silhouette or the color, then I'll always feel good. And like, isn't that amazing? Like what you should always feel good in your clothes. So I think for me, it was just really exciting to realize like, oh, I don't have to like mix it up every time. I don't have to find a new creative outfit every time I go out. I can just wear one of my 2 white dresses. I have like 3 white dresses, but for a long time when I worked at BuzzFeed, I had 2 styles of white dress, but I had 2 of them. So I had like these 4 white dresses and I just would alternate them pretty much every day in the summer. This white dress, then that white dress. Jewelry stayed the same, shoes stayed the same, all of it. Like it was so easy. And, you know, as we've been living at home, it's been like, you know, there's an opportunity to change how you're dressing or rethink it. But honestly, for the most part, I'm still basically following the same dress code. I don't wear white jeans when I'm sitting at home, but a lot of times I'm wearing like white sweatpants, or like I have like multiple different pairs of white, cream, light, very light gray sweats that are kind of in different cuts depending on the mood I'm in. You can see this, like I came from Madewell with a matching bottom. So it's still very much in line of my original dress code. And it just is so, I don't know, I find it really calming and relaxing. It's not for everybody, but I think if this kind of appeals to you, I think I would recommend doing it if you're somebody who like finds shopping really overwhelming, have really struggled to find a sense of like define your style, or just feel like, you know, you found one thing you really liked and often have the sense of like, if only I could find that, or if only I could wear that every single day. I'm kind of like, what if you just bought multiples in a couple different colors and did wear that every single day? Like, what if you didn't feel like you had to have like 17 pairs of shoes, but just one? Like, I think there's something really liberating, particularly for women, about saying like, I'm not going to get creative with my clothes. I'm not going to dress for you. I'm going to dress for me. And I think that's ultimately kind of what my dress code is. And I actually think that's why, at least like with my coworkers and people who know me, it became sort of this like defining thing, because I was just like, no, I wear this every day and I love it. And I love this thing. I feel so good in it. And like, when you feel good in your clothes, that's reflected out into the world. I also just feel like so much of how I'm dressing is for physical comfort. So like, I live in New York. I have to walk to the subway. I have to, you know, go do all these things. Like I want to be wearing flats pretty 99% of the time. And so building a wardrobe around what can I wear with flats and feel like I don't need to be wearing heels at a basic level did so much for me, and like allowed me to move through the world more easily and more comfortably. But dressing for comfort can mean so many different things. So yeah, my feet are comfortable, but like just feeling like something fits me right and fits me like personality wise right goes so far. Because when you're wearing clothes that aren't comfortable, like, you know, like you're tugging at them all day, you're like shifting. We've all been in that position where we're like, we get to wherever we're going and we're like, wow, I really regret wearing this thing. Like this does not look as good on, or does not feel as good on me as I thought it would. Do I look as bad as I feel? Which is a terrible feeling. So I think for me, it's just like, I know this thing fits me. I know it feels great. I'm going to wear that. And so I'm going to be confident in whatever situation I might find myself in. I think the big thing with giving yourself a dress code is just to like figure out what works for you and kind of figure out how to tailor it season to season. So I mentioned white dresses in the summer, like that's pretty much my go-to. And then like I have a couple pairs of shorts, couple like short, like cream colored shorts. I have a couple pairs of white shorts. I have a couple pair of like lavender shorts. And then I have the tops that go with them. So mostly like white t-shirts or like maybe a pastel top with the white bottoms, same shoes. So like that's set for summer. It kind of evolves into fall and winter, which is like white jeans, kind of similar shoes, but a winter style, you know, a pastel sweater instead of a pastel t-shirt. Like you can actually translate things from season to season really easily. And so like, I don't always like, summer is my least favorite season. I find it to be the hardest one to dress for. And like, 99% of the problems I have with summer are wardrobe problems, but I do feel like once I figured out, okay, what I feel comfortable in winter, does have a summer counterpart. Yeah, I'd prefer not to have, I would be happiest if I could wear sweaters and jeans year round, but like, how can I kind of get at this in my own way in the summer? Like, it helps a lot. It helps me dread summer less and be willing to go out more. So I think once I kind of released myself from the idea of like, my outfits have to be creative, my outfits have to be an expression of myself. Like, my outfits ultimately are an expression of myself. Like, giving myself a dress code is part of my personality. It does communicate things about me, and the specific clothing that I choose is for a reason. So I don't want to make it seem like I don't care about this stuff or that like it's wrong to care about this stuff. I think like when we go out, we're always dressing, we're always choosing the clothes we choose for a reason. But I think my reasons have shifted over time, and my reasons are now more about what I want and what I feel good in versus what I think other people want me to be wearing or what other people think I should be wearing. And I think there's something really empowering about just centering your own comfort and your own preferences. Like, when I posted about this, I wrote this article about this for BuzzFeed, and I usually never read the comments, but I did on this one because it was something that I cared about and I kind of wanted to see the reaction. And somebody commented like, well, I don't like these outfits. I don't like the white jeans. And I don't remember if I responded or not, but in my head, I was just like, oh, I don't care. Like, that's not the point. Did you read the article? Like, this isn't for you. Like, I don't care if you like it or not. And I think once you let yourself get to a place where like you truly in your heart are just like, oh, how weird. Like, you have thoughts on my clothes. Like, it's so freeing, and it starts to influence the other aspects of your life. Like, if people like my jeans or my dress or whatever, that's nice and I appreciate it. But on the whole, I'm just like, I don't want to necessarily be noticed for this thing. I just want to exist. I want to exist for myself. I want to move through the world in a way that I feel comfortable. And I think that like when you let yourself prioritize that, it becomes a domino effect, and you start to prioritize your own comfort and your own preferences and your own tastes and other aspects of your life. And I think there was something for me that like once I could confidently just wear what I wanted to wear and not really give a fuck that everyone else in New York wears black and I don't. Like, once I was able to kind of do that, it like allowed me to be more comfortable with my other preferences and thoughts, which I feel like is a really valuable thing to just say like, no, this is who I am. You can take it or leave it. But ultimately, like, not everything I do is for you. It's not for comment. It's not for you to like it or not. So like I said, if you are struggling to get dressed in the morning, I strongly encourage some kind of dress code, some kind of rules. It has simplified my life so much more and made me a more comfortable and confident person.
Okay, well, that was really awesome and very helpful. I certainly learned a lot. And now in our next session, Dory is going to be in conversation with one of my favorite authors, the amazing Jasmine Guillory, and they are going to talk all things work and career. So please welcome Dory and Jasmine. Jasmine Guillory, for those who don't know her, is the New York Times bestselling author of 6 romance novels, including The Wedding Date, The Proposal, and the upcoming While We Were Dating. Her work has appeared in O, the Oprah magazine, Cosmopolitan, Bon Appetit, and Time, and she lives in Oakland, California. So take it away, Dory and Jasmine.
Hello, Dory.
Hi, Jasmine.
I have to say, by the way, after that thing about dress code, I absolutely, like back when I had a day job, I had a Monday dress, and I had this like black dress that I would wear every Monday. It made my life so much easier. Like, I am not a person who needs a dress code in that kind of way, but it was so nice to just like Monday mornings, I did not have to think. I just like wore the same dress. I mean, I am also lucky that I live in California, so I could really wear the same dress year round. I just had like different shoes and a different jacket and sweater or like whatever to go with it. But it was amazing. And then I started, after a while, I started having like a Friday dress. Yeah, it was great. Like, I do enjoy so much creativity in dress sometimes, but it's also nice to like have some defaults that you just go with when you don't want to think about it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that so much.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about work. I loved so much about work in your book because like you, I also, had a big career shift. After like 15 years in one job. And so that was something that I really connected with. And I've had a lot of people like ask me questions who are, who've been in the same job for like 10 years. A lot of disaffected lawyers will come to me like, I don't want to do this anymore. How do I get out? And what is your best advice? Like, what is the advice that you give when people ask you that question?
So, I think in some ways it does vary a little bit depending on what your kind of like life circumstances are. But on a very like practical level, I always advise people to have an emergency fund. That if you can save like 6 months of expenses, that definitely makes leaving, especially a traditional, 9-to-5 job for something more creative, that makes it a little less scary to know that you kind of have that financial cushion. The other thing that I would say is like, try to do it before you leave to the extent that you can. So, I personally would find it very scary if I were a lawyer to have not written anything ever and then suddenly quit and decide I'm going to be a writer. And, I know that you worked on was it your first 2 books, your first three books while you were still, your first 3 while you were still working as a lawyer. And, I think that is what I would advise. Like, make sure that this is something that actually like brings you joy, and something that you really want to do, and try to set yourself up to be able to do that before you leave your very stable paycheck every week or whatever health insurance job. And something that I write about in my book that I also just want to acknowledge, which is that I feel like there are a lot of these kind of like self-help books that are like, just pursue your passion and like go for it. And like, in an ideal world, yes, I would love for everyone to be able to do that. But like, the fact is I personally was able to leave my job at BuzzFeed because I was married and was able to go on my husband's health insurance and had the safety net. So, while I want people to pursue their dreams, I also want to like acknowledge my own kind of privilege in being able to do that on terms that were sort of like palatable to me. So I don't know. Maybe that's not like really advice, but those are the thoughts that go through my mind when someone kind of talks to me about that.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. And I also think another thing is like, it's not all or nothing, like
yes,
there's a lot of creeping in one direction before you finally can make the move, right? I mean, I think so many people are kind of like ready to make a big change, and I so understand that, but I think you have to take a lot of steps towards that to like get there. And I think that's not something that like is easy to see from the outside, right? Like
totally.
I mean, right, like I was like writing 3 books as I was working full time. Like, you were doing a lot of like work towards the podcast as like in we launched the podcast while I was still working full time at BuzzFeed. Yeah. So I think it's easy to see like, oh, look at how that worked for you, but there's often a long period of time where it's not working, or it's not working at all, and then it's working some, and then you're just working constantly, right?
Yes. Oh no, that's such a good point. And like, you're right. I had not totally left my job when I started working on Forever 35. And I think there's also a world where it's like, maybe you stop doing that really intense corporate job that you have, but you take another steady job that's maybe less pressure, that like allows you to pursue your creative dreams. Like you said, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. So I think you're right. Like, that's something really important to just kind of like keep in mind.
Yeah. And I think that's really true too. Like, when I was working full time for a law firm, like 15 years ago, there's no way I could have written anything because I was working constantly, right? And so I think you can like make a change and sort of downgrade your day job maybe,
Yes.
That's probably a bad way to say it. Like, change your
I know
day
what you
job
mean,
in
though.
a way that
Yes.
you're not like, that you have space for other things, and then
Yes.
and then see.
I know that you're supposed to be interviewing me, but but like, how far in advance did you like plan? Did you consciously leave your really high stress law firm job because you knew you wanted to be a writer? And
No, absolutely not. Like, I didn't even think about being a writer at the time when I was there. So I sort of, was a law firm, and then I was working at a nonprofit, but like the nonprofit work I was doing was kind of high stress for a while too. And then
Okay.
I was at a nonprofit where I had like a lot more time. And that was actually when I first started thinking about being a writer, because I had for so long worked in jobs where I was like, I would get home at 10 o'clock at night and like, take a shower and go to bed, or like watch something on TV and go to bed. And then I was getting home at 6 and I was like, what do I do now?
Right.
So that really was what
Right,
started giving me the space to think like, maybe there is something I want to do. I don't love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so I think, so there wasn't like, I had sort of a long time of like kind of thinking of things before I really started writing. And that was partly what really gave me that opportunity. So it sort of happened backwards, but in a good way.
Yeah. But I think that's like instructive for people.
And then what is some of the best and some of the worst career advice people have given you?
Oh, wow. Okay. I think some of the worst was don't leave grad school. I was in a PhD program for history in my early 20s. And I don't go into great detail about this in the book, but yeah, I was in a PhD program for about 3 years. And I would say after about a year, it was pretty clear that this was not right for me. And I did not want to be a professor. And it just, nothing was right about it. But you kind of get a little bit of Stockholm syndrome in academia, I think. And, I really internalized this idea that I was going to be a huge failure if I left academia, and that like my life would basically be over. And that was told to me directly and indirectly, essentially. And, directly people would be like, oh, well, insert person's name, they left academia, and it was like, and then they died. Poor like, souls. And it was like, okay. And this kind of like snobbishness about other careers, and that really affected me. And I stayed in that program for 2 more years before I finally kind of like wrested myself free of it. And I think that was partly because I was really young. I was 23 when I started the program, and I just didn't have, a strong enough kind of sense of self to be able to like counter that narrative. So that I would say was kind of the worst advice. The best advice, I mean, I think it's sort of similar. Well, kind of. I think the best advice is that like even if you're loyal to your job, they might not be loyal to you.
That is advice that I give women in their 20s constantly. Like, actually gave that exact advice to a woman today.
Oh, really? Well, yes. It's
like advice. I feel guilty leaving my job, because no, don't feel guilty, have no guilt. No. They won't feel guilty if they fire you. Like, yeah.
Exactly. And like it applies to so many situations. I feel like I've given that advice when people have asked me, oh, I just started a job and like it really doesn't feel like the right job, and like this other job that I'd applied for, they just actually got in touch and they want to hire me. Can I leave after like a month? And I'm like, yeah, you can. I think that especially, and I wrote about this in my novel and then a little bit in this book. But I think a lot of startups especially try to create this idea that like we're a family, and that is just gaslighting. Like, your job is not your family, and you don't owe them your life. And I think that's what I mean when I say like they're not going to be loyal to you in the same way that your family probably is going to be loyal to you. So do not feel that you need to treat them that way too.
Yes, I very much agree with that. And I think that is such a hard thing for so many people, especially women, especially young women, because we get like,
yes,
there's this idea that we are responsible for like other people and then we owe them, and
Yep.
do what you need to do for you, because they're not going to do what you need. Absolutely. And so why do you like, I think one thing that I really loved about your book is that it sort of talks about changing your mind about things, right? Like you talked about that, some about why do you think that's something that we should celebrate instead of, I think there's so much like, it's, you see it in so many parts of life, right? In politics or in like things about jobs, like people are like, oh, well, you said something different 2 years ago. Yes, well, I've changed my mind. And like, why do you think, that's something that we should celebrate? And how do you think we can celebrate that better with people? Or encourage that more? Because I think that's I think people just sort of seem to get weird about changing your mind, which like we grow up and change our minds.
I think part of it starts with you know what, I'm having headphone issues again. So I'm going to switch back to these guys.
All right, sorry about that. AirPods are not really cooperating with me. Okay, AirPods are not cooperating with me today. Sorry, now I've lost my train of thought.
Celebrating changing your mind.
Yes. I think it starts with people being more forthcoming about when they have changed their minds. I follow a woman named Christine Byrne, who I used to work with at BuzzFeed, on Instagram, and she does a lot of work with disordered eating, and she recently posted this really powerful post about how she has changed her mind about so many things regarding disordered eating and her former perspectives on it. And it was so powerful because you so rarely see that. You so rarely see someone being like, you know what? I used to think this way, and now I think that it's wrong, and here's why. And I feel like I could probably make more of a practice of doing that too, because it's not like I hold the same opinions that I did, 10 years ago or whatever. And so I think it starts with that. And I think it also is something that, when people are sort of brave enough to say it, it would help if the response was, that's amazing, instead of vilifying people for formerly having had these opinions. So trying to just kind of like acknowledge people's personal growth, I think, is important.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times the response is, well, like that old opinion you have is bad. Yes, I agree.
Yes, I'm aware.
And sometimes it's not even bad. It's just like, I have changed the way I want to do things. Like a friend of mine, was like, I used to be child free, and then I decided I wanted to have a baby. It's not because I think that oh, if you're child free, you'll always change your mind. No, I did though. And it's like, it's fine to change your mind. I had a different things happen in my life, and I wanted a baby. Like,
right. Yeah. Like people change, people's circumstances change, people's life experience changes. And so I think it's unrealistic to expect that our opinions and our stances on things are going to remain exactly the same. Which is not to say that people can't have, you know, a consistent like moral core or compass, but I think people should be able to reserve the right to change their minds about things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, I mean, I think this along those same lines, I think I had, you know, very different ideas of what my dream job was in like my teens and my 20s and my 30s. And how did, like, I love that, you know, you kind of talk about how you had different iterations of your dream job. And like, what is the thing I think that you credit with like having this now dream job at Forever 35? Because you, I think, sort of like me, kind of fell into that accidentally and kind of realized it without even knowing it. So what, like, how did that happen for you? Not really like procedurally, because we all know that, but really like conceptually.
Yeah, you know, that's such an interesting question. And I do think part of that goes back to having started to do Forever 35, like when I was 40, like when I had already had a lot of jobs, some of which I had gone into thinking this, you know, this is a dream job. Some of which you know, at BuzzFeed, I really struggled with coming to the realization that what I thought was a dream job was not a dream job for me. And it just wasn't right for me anymore. But I kind of beat myself up about it because I was like, gosh, you're so, you know, you're so ungrateful. Like, how could you give up this job that like so many people would want? Right. And I finally just had to be like, but this is no longer the job that I want. And so I think having that knowledge and then being able to start something, it was like I just knew because I'd done so many things that had never quite felt right, you know? And I don't know if you had a similar experience, but that was definitely what it was like for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it like it really helps to have had a bunch of other life experiences, right? You know, to kind of know to know what feels like it fits and to know what feels like it doesn't, and also to know, you know, there's certain like to know when you can speak up, like to be able to have found your own voice earlier, to know how to push back, because I think that is something that's so hard. It's, you know, especially for women like in their 20s, I think, because you feel like you are not empowered to push back. And I mean, I'm not saying this to blame women, because I think so often when they try, you get like smacked down for trying, you know? And so I think having gone through that and kind of figuring out like, I'm tired of, like, I have no filter anymore. It makes kind of everything a little bit easier.
Totally. And I know we have to wrap, but like I feel like I could talk about this stuff forever. And I hope that more women kind of in the generation behind us are talking about it more amongst themselves and, you know, are able to have that clarity that maybe we weren't able to find until much later.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I think, you know, like that is one of my goals really in like when, you know, when people ask me for advice and things like that, it is like I just want people to know, like, you don't have to, you can do something else. Like you can push back, you can figure out like, or even like take some time to figure out what do you like and what do you dislike about this, because so often we're told what we're supposed to like, and that's often very different from what you do actually like you were, you know, talking about BuzzFeed and feeling guilty, like, oh well, so many other people would like this. I mean, that doesn't matter if you don't.
Right, exactly.
Do we have time for one last question, or do we have to move on?
I think maybe really quick. Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna say we have.
Well, I couldn't let this go without asking you a writing question, because I love talking to writers about writing. what was your writing process like for this book? Because I know, because you wrote a novel before this, but writing a novel and a memoir, I think, are pretty different. Like, what was hard about it, and what was fun, and what was easy?
Well, it was originally supposed to be a book of essays. So, and I just like couldn't get it to really work, and I wasn't sure why. And then someone suggested that maybe it wasn't actually a book of essays, maybe it was a memoir. And I was like, oh, okay. And that kind of made things click for me in a way that they hadn't before. But I was like, oh fuck, now I have to write a memoir. Like, that's like I did not feel equipped to write a memoir. I had not sold a memoir. That was suddenly very scary to sort of like rip up everything that I had done and turn what I had into a memoir. So that was really hard. And there were definitely times where I was like, I cannot do this. Like, I just can't do this. And I worked really closely with an outside editor named Carrie Fry, who basically like held my hand and got me to finish a draft that I was then able to send to my editor, Sarah, who you've been seeing tonight and last night, and then Sarah and I worked together for a few more rounds of revisions. And she really turned it into a book. But it was a real struggle. There were days when I just like stared at my computer and was like, this is horrible. And I just, it was really hard. It was really, really hard. I'm really happy with it now, but when I was writing it, I was like, why did I do this to myself? And then just one last thing, I actually do think that having written a novel was helpful in writing a memoir because, I needed a narrative in a way that I didn't necessarily when it was going to be a book of essays. And so having written a novel, as you know, which needs a narrative and a plot, I kind of was able to take those skills that I had learned writing a novel and put them onto a memoir. So I think it actually was helpful. So,
well, I thank you for answering that. I love hearing about other writers and their process and how it all works. That's very interesting. There used to be a collection of essays, and then you kind of realize that was not.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jasmine. This was really fun.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. I love talking to you about your book.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, guys. And that was also fun to hear. Dory gives herself too little credit. She is what made this a book. And also, I do think the decision to turn it from essays into a memoir was really, it was probably very scary for Dory, but also I think an incredibly brilliant choice that has turned out so well. And that was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much, Jasmine, for joining us. And now I'm excited to introduce you to Courtney Chiusano, who is our second interstitial tonight. She is recognized as a leading expert in her field, creating a skin sanctuary where clients are put at ease in a judgment-free environment that focuses on results. Courtney takes a holistic approach to skincare by incorporating natural and organic products to restore and nourish the skin. Much of her expertise surrounds supporting individuals suffering from acne, irritation, melasma, rosacea, and overall inflammation in the skin. Courtney has been featured as a top natural facialist in Los Angeles and the Redness Whisperer by Chalkboard Mag, and she's contributed for articles in Pop Sugar, Well and Good, and featured as a reoccurring guest on Forever 35. So here is Courtney.
Hi everyone, I'm Courtney Trisano. I am the founder and owner of Courtney Trisano Skincare Studio in Los Angeles, as well as product line. And as a seasoned esthetician, a product developer, and a holistic health enthusiast, I see a lot of missed opportunities and a lot of overzealous approach to skincare. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about ways to kind of navigate the skincare industry, how to build your best regimen for you, and how to really figure out and listen intuitively to your skin and what your skin is telling you and what it needs. And we're also going to talk a little bit about, great skincare doesn't need to be expensive. It can definitely be things that are small, manageable things to be done at home. Because I feel like overall the skincare industry has become overwhelming in so many different ways. There's so many different products out there. There's so many different approaches. And I really truly believe they all have a place. It's really just finding what works best for you, what speaks best for you, and what speaks most to your skin. So we're going to start off just a little bit today about talking about, biggest misconceptions and really missed opportunities and things that are overzealous approaches in a lot of different ways. One of the most common things that I really see in my studio is overexfoliation. It really seems to get everybody. I really think in this day and age, there's just so many acids and exfoliants and retinoid products, and there's just so many things on the market. They all claim to be, the key to youth and rejuvenation. So it's definitely an easy, trap to fall into. So really the first thing you want to do with your skincare routine is look at how many acids, exfoliants, any sort of retinoids, active products, and start to dial those back. You really want to, if you're a normal skin type, at most be doing something active, I would say about 3 times a week. And I know that is usually a little bit more than that for some people. If you lean to more of a sensitive skin type, you want to do this at most once a week. This might even be more of a treat for you, say every, twice a month or every other week, really creating that as more of a treatment than a regular skincare routine. So I would say for your acids, exfoliation, if you're a really sturdy skin type, you can go as many as 4 or 5 days. If you're a normal skin type, you can go as many as 3 days. And if you're a sensitive skin type, once a week to once or twice a month at most. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions I see in the skincare industry, is just that need to really be overzealous and burning's good and all of those active ingredients are good, which isn't necessarily the truth. You want to listen to your skin. If your skin is telling you, I'm red, I'm dry, I'm flaky, listen to it, scale back, and really just be intuitive about what your skin needs. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions I see with skincare. And another thing I see is great skincare doesn't have to be expensive. You really can build yourself a nice, simple regimen with a reasonable cost, and then also do some things internally and lifestyle wise that really serve your skin and your whole body without breaking the bank. So one of my first things I like to do that is great for skincare and doesn't cost anything is back sleeping. Can't stress it enough. It's one of my favorite things. I'm 35. I have yet to delve in anything filler, Botox, or anything wise. And I cannot say enough about just straight up back sleeping. So whether you have to get a pillow that supports that, or you just have to have a partner that likes to keep an eye on you and maybe adjust you at night, you really want to try to focus on back sleeping, just because muscle memory, squishing your face really all night, hopefully for 8 hours a night, is going to have long-term effect on your skin. So when you are sleeping on your back, everything's kind of back, taut, nothing is getting squished. So that's one of the first things that you can do that is really affordable and great for your skin. The second thing is water intake. Cannot stress it enough. Everybody knows it, but really when you're adequately hydrating your body and your skin will show. So really making sure that you're getting adequate water throughout the day. If you're a wine drinker, if you're a coffee drinker, that's fine. Just make sure you're adding extra glasses of water to compensate for anything that would be dehydrating. And then also with water intake, as if I know a lot of people aren't big water drinkers. They don't love drinking water all day. It can be like a full-time job. You can also eat your hydration. So I'm a big advocate of getting in, apples, celery, cucumber, watermelon, things that are really hydrating, and you can get it in that way. So once your body's really accepting the hydration, you'll see it in your skin, and it really kind of gives you that nice plump glow, then gets rid of a lot of, really fine surface crinkling, I like to call it, which can just oftentimes be dehydration. So back sleeping, making sure you're properly hydrated. Collagen, another great item that you can incorporate that does cost a little something, but just, the basic collagens that you can put in your coffee are really effective, as well as drinking bone broth. Bone broth is one of my personal favorite ways to get collagen and hydration into my body. It's really skin smoothing. I do find when I'm really regular with it, I can see it in my own skin. So my favorite bone broth is actually one I make. It's super easy. You can do it at home. If you go on my Instagram page, you will be able to see my recipe in my highlights. It really is a great, effective way to take care of your skin and nourish and hydrate your body, in a really effective way. And then another way of, a little bit more affordable skincare regimen is squalane. Can't say enough about it. If you've heard me talk on Forever 35 podcast, you know how I feel about squalane. It is a olive oil derivative, and you can get it on Amazon for about $12 a bottle. I like the 100% Italian pure. It really works for everybody. It's hydrating, it's anti-aging, it's softening, and I find that even the most finicky skin types deal well with it. Even if you're sensitive or if you are acneic, it really works across the board. And it's just a nice way to create a calm, hydrated way to go about it. And you don't have to spend a lot of money. So you can just get a squalane incorporated into your routine. Or if you're just getting into skincare and you want to look to build a very simple routine, a gentle cleanser. I like a milky cleanser or a light gel cleanser, and then incorporating your squalane. So just cleansing and squalane both morning and night is a really great way to get into skincare for the first time. Introduce yourself into the regimen world. And then if you're really looking to, build a regimen that's effective for you, and you've been into skincare for a while and you're just trying to figure out what works best for you, I'm a really big advocate of just starting small, starting simple, and having a routine. Your skin loves routine. Cannot say it enough. I know people like to jump around. I got samples. I wanted to try this. Someone recommended that. Really, your skin just wants routine. That's all she wants. So just make sure to accommodate her as best as possible. So if you are, with a ton of products at home, sit down and figure out, okay, this is what has worked the best for me, and start to streamline your regimen. You ideally would like to cleanse, moisturize in the morning, cleanse, moisturize at night. Those are the two non-negotiable skincare regimens. Obviously, if you are outdoors quite often in the morning, you'd like to throw in an SPF. And at night, if you feel like you tend to be a little bit more dry, that's when you want to incorporate things that are a little bit more rich in the evening. Your body does all of its repairing and your skin does all of its repairing late at night. So you want to make sure while you're sleeping, your skin's getting those proper nutrients. So again, fundamental regimen: cleanse, moisturize, SPF in the morning, cleanse, heavier moisturizers at night. Now, if you're going to get into more active ingredients, vitamin C is the most effective in the morning, and then you're going to want to do any heavier exfoliants at night before you go to bed. I like to do at most, again, around 3 times a week for active ingredients. You want to give your skin time to rest, adjust, and you don't want to overstrip or agitate in any way. And then if you're going to incorporate things that are like masks or acids or things like that, make it a routine built for you, in the sense that each night of the week, like, this is when I do this, so your skin is in that regimen. And also when you are in a routine like that, where you can really track, okay, these are the days that I use these products, you can listen to your skin. If your skin's a little more reactive on the days that okay, well, on Wednesdays I'm a little more reactive, well, what do I do on Tuesdays? You can really listen to your skin and figure out what your skin's telling you. Is that a great product for it? Is it responding well? Is it not responding well? So routine really helps you figure out what's best for your skin, and listen to your skin and hear what it really has to tell you. Same thing for masking. Big fan of masks, but you want to pick a mask and you want to do it on the same time every day of the week. Pick a day of the week and stick to it, is what I mean. So you really can track your results and see what works best for you. So again, skincare is easy, it can be effective. It just needs to be simple. It needs to be routined, and really it has to be intuitive. Listen to your skin, listen to your body, see what it needs. Again, nourishment from the inside is equally as effective of what's going on the outside, and it doesn't have to be really overthought or really expensive. It can just be, a nice way to treat yourself, a nice way to treat your skin, and you will see the results. So, I'm just so happy to be a part of Dory's book launch, and I am so excited to help everyone with skin. So if you need anything from me, you know where to find me. Take care.
Thank you so much, Courtney. That was very illuminating, and the back sleeping is something I'm going to work on. Okay, and now to close us out is the wonderful Emily Ferris, who's back to guide us in making one more signature cocktail or mocktail if you choose. So I'm going to bring her on. Emily Ferris has been creating content for the internet for nearly 20 years. She's written for The Cut, Bon Appetit, Lifehacker, BuzzFeed, and many other publications you've actually heard of. She shares drink recipes and home decor tips on her blog, theboozybungalow.com, and she's currently launching a parenting podcast and working on an essay collection about her late in life ADHD diagnosis. Most often, Emily can be found on Instagram at @ThatEmilyFerris. So here is Emily.
Hello, I'm Emily, and apparently I am a chronic over exfoliator. I feel like I'm not the only one who's thinking that right now. And I also didn't even know that I have a dress code, because this is kind of the same shirt I was wearing last night, except it's a dupe of the shirt, because when I find something I love, I buy like 5 copies of it. This is only number 2. I'm sure I'll be buying more, maybe in different colors. So I'm loving and relating to this event tonight. It's very much like listening to the pod. And I'm so excited to be here. Dory, I am so honored that you asked me to make drinks twice for this event. I got my copy today. So exciting.
Yay.
I can't wait to read it. Even though I'm the world's slowest reader, I can't wait to read it. After a few drinks tonight, I'll crack into it. So the drink I'm making tonight, I call it a little baby spritz. And it is my take on an Aperol spritz, which is a classic cocktail that has Aperol and wine, or like Prosecco, like a bubbly sparkling wine Prosecco, usually, or champagne or whatever, and club soda. It's something like ladies who lunch like to drink, but it's also very popular in Italian culture. It's been very popular here in the States for a few years too. But a few months into Quar, I was like, I'm drinking too much. So as an act of self-care, I decided to create a cocktail that was very low alcohol, because you know what, that shit was still hard. And maybe it's not good that I wanted to have a drink in my hand as a form of self-care, but I don't really, for me, it was like, this feels comfortable to me. This is comfort, having a cold clinking drink in my hand. So I thought about the flavors that I love and the ingredients that I love. And Aperol is one of my favorite flavors. Now, in the beginning, I was going through like a bottle a week, and I was like, oh, I got to slow that down a little bit, because that's not really helping in the situation. But this is an Italian aperitivo, and it's made with rhubarb, which is one of my favorite cocktail ingredients, and herbs and some other ingredients I can't pronounce. And this is such a simple drink. The other ingredient is lemon LaCroix. And I will talk about a few ways to make this non-alcoholic later, but this is my very low alcohol cocktail. And it's kind of silly that I'm even demoing it, but people love this drink and I get lots of questions about it. And after I posted it, I had a lot of people on Instagram just making it and sharing it. Like, this is my drink of quarantine. And I felt very proud, but it's so simple. So you can put as little or as much Aperol as you want into your glass. Then I like to add my ice, so I know how much room I have. And as I mentioned last night, I am ridiculous and have these big, fancy, clear ice cubes that I get delivered from a company in Kansas City called Fountain City Ice. But you can use regular refrigerator ice, and that's fine. And then you just top it off with the bubbly lemon LaCroix. And if your ratio of Aperol to lemon LaCroix is right, this can be a low alcohol drink. Obviously, you could make it a high alcohol drink. I give it a stir. And then when I'm feeling fancy, I put a lemon twist on it. Now a lemon twist is, my lemons were kind of old, oops. But it's when you cut just kind of the peel of the lemon off, trying to get as little of the pith as possible, and hopefully no flesh, though with my old lemons, I failed and got a little bit of flesh. It takes some practice to get there, but you get this lemon twist. And if my lemons were fresher, when you twist it, you would see, if you look closely, the little oils squirt out, and that kind of adds to the experience of the drink and brings out the lemon and the very natural lemon LaCroix. Now, sometimes you'll see a fancier lemon twist, and that's just a lemon twist that you kind of cut the jagged edges off of, and you can give them little pointy angles. So you twist your little twist. I have a few oils there. You drop it in your drink. It looks very fancy. It feels very fancy. It tastes delicious, and you can drink a lot of these without getting drunk. Now, if you want a non-alcoholic version, this is going to sound like a cop-out, but because this drink is so simple, you can mix it with anything. I can't think of anything that lemon LaCroix doesn't mix with. This is not SponCon, but it mixes with any. I mean, I haven't tried it with like Bailey's. So, but I'm of the don't knock it till you try it camp. So maybe, yeah, I don't know. But lemon LaCroix goes so well with so many things. You could mix it with the syrup from last night's drink if you made that. Dory, I know you made that. And I was drinking that.
So good.
So good, so refreshing, so summery. So the syrup from that would work with this. You could do the whole drink minus the alcohol with this. Often when I make that, I have lemon LaCroix in the fridge instead of club soda. So I just use it in place of club soda in most drinks. If you want to get something similar to this, I have a rhubarb syrup that I make. And the recipe is on my blog, The Boozy Bungalow. If you go to theboozybungalow.com, I think it's the first recipe up there because I don't update my blog often enough because I'm still semi-quarantined with 2 small children. But really you can mix it with anything, with your favorite spirit. You could mix it with your favorite infused syrup. Sometimes I like to use bitters. And just the simple act of dropping a fresh herb garnish or a lemon twist or a lime twist or something, or put like a berry, I'm not a big fruit fan. I have an aversion to like most fruits, but put a berry on a cocktail skewer and stick it in there, and it just kind of elevates the experience of the drink. And for me, at the beginning of quarantine, it just helped me feel kind of normal to have something in my hand that felt kind of comforting. And I like the glass clinking, and whether it's good self-care, not having a little bit of alcohol to help take the edge off at the end of the night, it worked for me. Maybe I'll write about that someday, but I just really, really love this drink. And if you try it, I know you will too. And Dory, if you don't have Aperol there, it's okay. I'll make you one when you come to Kansas City.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for doing all these drinks, Emily. It's just
I am always happy to make a
great.
drink. I hope that someday soon we can share one in person.
Me too.
Oh,
me too. And
so fun.
I will also say, if anyone has not made the basil mint lemonade from last night, what did we call it? The Bloomin' Lemonade.
That was your name, syrup, and I love it.
That basil mint syrup is, mwah,
and it makes your house smell amazing. It just smells like summer.
So
if you don't have a garden, it makes it smell like
so
you have
good.
a garden. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I love it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Congratulations on the book. I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to read it. Drink my drink, read the book, clink my giant ice cube, and cheers to you.
Thank you, Emily. Cheers.
Kate.
Hi.
Hi. How's it going?
I mean, it's hot. It's going great. I'm still figuring out my camera angle, but I'm here to help wrap it up.
Well, you nailed the camera angle.
Oh God.
You look great.
Thank you. I love an Aperol Spritz, so this is very appealing to me.
And we also emailed about low alcohol cocktails.
I know you helped me with this because I also am I love the idea of a cocktail, but I also my body doesn't really handle alcohol well. So a shrub or a non-alcoholic cocktail is really appealing to me.
And my rhubarb syrup that I mentioned it only has a little bit of vinegar in it, but it is similar to a shrub, but it's a little bit sweeter. It's got the tartness because of the rhubarb, and it's really good. So try that too.
That sounds, I will. I really appreciate all your advice on this front.
Happy to talk cocktails and ADHD, but that's another conversation.
Oh, my other favorite topic.
Same.
Well, Emily, thank you. Dory, it's me again.
Hello, Kate.
Hey, long time no see, long time no talk.
Yeah, I'm loving your other nap dress and your headband.
This is
It's
embarrassing.
Very Elizabeth Holmes of you.
I was inspired. Look, I brought 2 dresses with me to New Hampshire to wear for this. All my other clothes that I brought on this long trip I'm doing are like, very old tank tops. So I pull out the best for you and for the thanks for waiting, worth the wait launch event.
Listen,
so
I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And look, I really appreciate your book. Guess who's my dad is very excited to read it. I don't know if he considers himself a late bloomer, but he is on board. But Dory, as you wrap up tonight,
yeah,
we talked last night about what you hope people take away from your book. And I'm wondering, as you kind of come out of this experience of launching your book and celebrating it, and you're hearing other people's stories, what are you taking away from what it means to be a late bloomer? Not to give you like a trick question, but I'm curious if you've arrived at any sort of conclusion, or if hearing about other people's experiences has allowed you to kind of gain deeper perspective on it.
Yeah, one thing that I will say is it's been really gratifying to hear other people's stories of being a late bloomer or feeling like they were a late bloomer, and people feeling like they don't have it all figured out, or I think that's been really nice for me, because I think I spent so many years feeling like I was weird or broken in some way, and it's like, no, I wasn't. So thank you to everyone who has shared their stories of being a late bloomer with me. I really appreciate them, and I thank you for seeing me, and I see you.
I was listening to you on NPR's All Things Considered, which if people have not heard it, it's a fantastic interview with Dory. And what I gathered from the interview was that the interviewer felt very seen by your book in a way that was really coming through in your conversation. She was like, I was so excited to read this because this is how I felt. And I think it's really valuable how you are shining a light on an experience that exists but is not talked about. Well, now it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was writing this book, I was like, well, the concept of being a late bloomer isn't like a new concept. Am I really writing anything that compelling and new? And I had all this kind of self-doubt about it. But that's what's been really nice about the reception of the book, is people like Elsa Chang and other readers saying wow, I really feel seen in this book in a way that I haven't before. And so as an author, that's obviously super gratifying. And I just put the link to the NPR interview in the chat if anyone missed it.
It was a great interview. So Dory, now that the book is out, how are you going? And, now that I know you're not leaving it behind, you're still doing events. You're going to be talking about this book for the rest of your life. But now that you've kind of unleashed it into the world, what are you going to give yourself in the form of self-care to kind of cap off or celebrate the end of this experience?
I'm going to see my family. I'm going on vacation. I'm taking a week off, as you well know. Which I'm really looking forward to. I'm excited to get to spend some time with my immediate family, my extended family. You know, I haven't been back east in over a year and a half. And I'm really excited to just get to spend that, you know, that time with my family where we kind of do nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm doing that right now and it feels very good.
Yeah. So that is the gift I'm going to give myself.
Well, I'm going to hand it over to you and see if you have any final last words to end this beautiful event tonight. And I look forward to toasting you a little bit longer in the after party.
Oh, thank you.
Dory, do you want to say anything before I wrap things up?
I just want to thank everyone who participated in this event. I want to thank you, Sarah, for emceeing the event. Thank everyone at Penguin Random House who's been so supportive and amazing. And I want to thank everyone who came to the event. Thank you. Thank you so much. This was so fun and I'm really glad we got to do it.
Well, I just want to say thank you to everybody for attending. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Dory. Thank you for everybody who participated. And unfortunately, I hate to break this up, but we are out of time. So Kate, again, thank you so much for joining us to celebrate the Woman of the Hour, or hours, since I think this is hour 4 of our incredible conversation and our incredible launch event. And thanks as well to all the other conversation partners and experts, and to Book Soup and Tatcha, and the entire team who put this event together at Penguin Random House and our Well Enough series. We've had so much fun. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, thank you so, so much for joining us tonight. We can't wait to hear what you think of Thanks for Waiting. I have a feeling you'll love it